Today's lab is going to be about the conservation of mass. So I thought I would start by telling you about the law of conservation of mass. Matter cannot be created or destroyed in an ordinary chemical reaction. It's going to be changed from one form to another, but we are not going to create matter, nor are we going to destroy matter. So let's go ahead and see how we're going to do this experiment. Okay, so I want you to have your lab notebooks out, and I want you to write down the title of this lab, which is the Law of Conservation of Mass. And our purpose is to determine if mass is conserved in a chemical reaction. The very first reaction that we're going to do is we are going to react copper 2 chloride with sodium hydroxide. And to do this, you're going to put 2 milliliters of copper 2 chloride in one of your test tubes that has a blue cap, and you're going to put 2 milliliters of the sodium hydroxide in a separate test tube that has a blue cap. And you're going to get the mass of this before the reaction. Okay, so you're going to know the mass of your test tube with your 2 mils of copper 2 chloride and the mass of your test tube with 2 mils of sodium hydroxide. Okay, now it's time to start the reaction. So you are going to pour the contents of one test tube into the other test tube, and so when they mix, we'll be getting the reaction. After you mix them, I want you to record any observations, just like you're used to doing with any lab. So record any observation that shows you that a chemical reaction has happened. Now, after they're done reacting, I want you to get the mass of everything after the reaction. So remember, you're going to need to get the mass of both of the test tubes and then the contents that are in that one test tube. So you're going to compare this mass after the reaction to the mass before the reaction to see if mass was conserved. And then we're going to do it all again with a separate reaction. Reaction 2 is going to be reacting sodium carbonate with, this is acetic acid. There's the acetate ion, and when you put an H out front, it becomes an acid. So sodium carbonate and acetic acid. You're going to do the exact same thing. You're going to have 2 mils of sodium carbonate in a test tube and 2 mils of acetic acid in a different test tube. You're going to weigh their contents before the reaction. You're going to then mix them together, and you're going to record any observations of the chemical reaction, and then you're going to get the mass after the reaction and compare to the mass before the reaction. In your conclusion, I want you to answer this question: does your data support the law of conservation of mass? And explain if it does or if it does not. Then I want you guys to brainstorm together, and I want you to put down all your ideas in your conclusion. How could mass have been lost from a reaction? Or how could mass have been gained during a chemical reaction? All right, make sure you have on your goggles and be safe. And the last thing you do before you leave the lab is wash your hands.